Okay, good morning to all. Welcome back. This is possibly the third day of the workshop, right? So the speaker for the first session, right, is actually Mr. Johnson, Vino Johnson, right? Now branded as Johny Vino. Okay, I hope I'm putting it in the right way on the design terms, right? He is associated with the Apple Inc. as or in their design team. Specific designation I'm not able to recall. Okay, but my association with Johnson, I still somehow I'm comfortable in calling him as Johnson. Okay, so my association with him dates back to around approximately 2012 or 13. I don't recall the exact year. Right, so he came in actually as a second year intern student from AC Tech College. Right, I hope the South audience will be aware of AC Tech College, right, which is a one of the top institutes in the Day-1 category in Tamil Nadu. Okay, so he came in as a BTech intern student right, in his second year, and he was from the ECE background. I'm telling this story with some purpose in mind. Okay, right. So he came in as a BTech ECE student, right, and our institute we were running an internship scheme for other college BTech students. Right, we approximately used to take around 100 students and guide them in our area of interest and theirs as well. Okay. So he was one among the few who chose me and my area of HCA. Most of them were running after this data science craze, right? So he was among the very few who chose HCA. And if I am recalling very specifically the area also, right? We started working something on CAPTCHAs. Okay, just to put it to the audience on the chat. Okay, so his work under me, it started out in this area of CAPTCHAs. Okay, I think somewhere even Kenneth Karthik yesterday talked about CAPTCHAs. I don't know, maybe you can expect one question in the assessment on what is the expansion of CAPTCHA here. Okay, right, so completely automated public Turing tests to tell computers and human apart. Okay, so go find the exact explanation of CAPTCHA there in Google. So he surveyed, I think at least when we did it, it was quite nascent, right? Basically, that mechanism which helps the system to differentiate whether it is a machine logging in or a human being logging in. Okay, so he started with that. So even that time, as early as the second year, apart from this research work which pursued, I think he eventually came up with one literature or a white paper on the survey of CAPTCHAs. Okay, and some proposals also he had. I still remember that our institute, we were in the starting stages, right? We had a newsletter coming up, and I wanted a design for the newsletter. Okay, I hope Johnson also is recalling the episode. Okay, so I think our newsletter, I was the one who started it here, right? So I named it as Long Story, Mark Darshan. He was the one who volunteered to me, not as my institute student, but as an external student. He volunteered to come up with the design for the newsletter, okay, which was excellent. My director was, where were you people? I think it was on Adobe XD or something he designed, or Photoshop, I think, okay. So that was the start point for our interaction, right? Then we kept in touch, right? And then, despite coming from the ECE background, right, he had a staunch interest in design, and he eventually started out his career with Zoho India. Okay, right. Zoho was at that time very well known for design importance. Okay, right. So he started out with Zoho. Then I think he moved on to Microsoft US. Okay, right. And I don't know whether it was before or after his PG. In between, he went for his MS in something related to HCA from School of Visual Arts. Right. See, I am talking from my memory. Okay, right. So if I am recalling some strings wrong, pardon me for that, Johnson. Okay, so he went in for a higher studies degree from some school of visual arts in the US. Okay, which is really noted for their design culture. Okay, so I think either before that or after that, he was also shortly associated with Microsoft, right, in their design team, and then later moved on to Apple, which is the epitome for designers, right? So I think I've cut the story, long story short. Like Kenneth Karthik I told yesterday, he is one pedestal up. For me, design, I can't run an HCA workshop without Johnson in place. So he is excellent, and I am deeply, I call him as a student, even though he was only an intern student, right? But the learning curve, the rise that he has shown in his professional career, right? I think that's phenomenal for somebody who came from an ECE background, Nothing against CC people per se, right? But that's what I mean by self-interest, right? As early as second year, he was very clear. I want a design career. I want an interaction design career, right? And eventually, in a 10 year span of time, he is in the possibly one of the leading places where you can enjoy design. Okay, if possible, you go and I think his website is. If you search Johny Vino, you will get his website here, right? The way he has designed his website, right? Two options, a dark versus light foreground, and light versus a dark foreground, right? All HCA principles which we preach, he practices, and I think he follows this logic here. We say an apple a day keeps the doctor away. He says an app a day makes me a better interaction designer. Okay, I just now I recall that message from his website somewhere. Okay, right. So I'll not drag the audience too much with my philosophies, right? I'll hand over the session. I'll tell. I think this is one of you can if you want to call this as a keynote lecture, you can call it, right? One of I could not have him on Monday because of time constraints, right? One of the leading audiences who can possibly brief you on design and interaction is an importance. And he, along with his people at Apple, right, he's also involved in a lot of pedagogical activities where they involve in uploading free videos, training sessions, and all. Okay, right. So we have an excellent speaker in place, right? So my request to the audience to make use of his presence. Johnson, the floor is yours, Johnson.
Hey, thank you, sir. Thank you, sir, for the great introduction. And I will start sharing my screen. See my screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Could you see my name? See my slide, right?
Yeah, we can see.
Okay, sounds good. So, as sir said, my name is Johny Vino. Right now I work with the Apple Human Interface Design team, and I primarily work on a lot of mobile devices, iPad, Mac OS, and all the interfaces like in Apple. So I also go for, as sir mentioned, I really like doing design, so I go for a lot of like mentoring and like a lot of workshop. I talk at places about design, and these are some of the workshop I did for like showing how can we design something which is more interactive and fun to use, and rather than just a dynamics mobile or like some software design. So I also like been a part of like a W3 awards jury, and I've been evaluated a lot of like apps. How can they make their app more interesting and everything. So as sir mentioned, so when I started design, I'm actually I studied ECE, so I have no idea about design. So I come up with this project for myself of like designing apps from different categories, from like news, business, transportation. I took all the different category of apps, and I come up with like how can we make it more humanized or like make it more interactive to make it more fun for everyone to use instead of just being normal. So I come up with a lot of motion and interactive stuff to make it more human, basically. So today I'm going to just talk about how can we make, so this one is like how can like all the interfaces you see is like more fluid than like when you experience it, you feel something to use the app more. So today's topic is basically fluid design. How can we make our design more fluid than being static or like really rigid software design? So to start with, so what makes the design feel fluid or like something you feel something like if you use iPhone or like Android, what makes the design actually fluid? When I ask a lot of people tell me like, okay, it's fast or smooth, like it have a lot of animation, magical or sound. I think fluid is basically, it's like you feel natural. If you're using a device, you don't feel like you're using something. You just feel naturally you can able to use something without much learning. You don't need any notes or someone don't need to teach you the software. For example, if you're using Instagram or if you're using WhatsApp, no one need to teach you anything. Like you just know what are the things they designed and you know how to use all the features. That's how they make it fluid, and they put a lot of effort in making it fluid to make anyone to be attracted to that app, and it, you never feel something. Um, so to make it fluid, so like in Apple, we follow this 4 bridges basically. We have to make it natural, and it had to be dynamic based on the concept, and like it had to give feedback whenever you're doing something. You have to also always get feedback. And third is like adding a delight element, which is super important in the app, any software design we are doing right now. So let me start with how can we make things natural, and I'm going to show some example of like what are things we designed here, which is actually we made it natural. So first thing I want to start with is like this TV remote. Like everyone must be really familiar with this TV remote. Every company TV, they will come with this remote. There will be multiple function you can use, but it's basically 1 or 0. You can go right or left, like it's just 0 based logic. But at the same time, we humans are like we are super smart. Our brain can process like supercomputer. They can think a lot of things at the same time, and our hand is connected to your brain. So whenever you do something in your hand, your brain is also connected. So you can also do several things at the same time. So if something like remote is near your hand, your brain can able to do multiple things, but the device it's given to you, it's pretty limited in terms of functionality. So the way we thought about is like is mobile phone, where we do several type of interaction, something like tap, multi-gesture, like long press, swipe. Every day we interact this type of things. We know how to zoom, we know how to rotate, we automatically know all these things. So we thought about how can we make those things, no natural things we do every day, into like just a remote design, which is what you see right now in like if you buy Apple TV or something. You can actually have a pad at the top, which is not a touch screen, but it's just a pad where you can do several interaction. Like if you want to swipe down to next option, if you want to swipe up, and you can also scroll. Like if you want to play or fast forward, you can just swipe things. So those type of things, it looks so simple, but they make it so natural of the habits we already have. So second example, so this is just a quick example of like what design is like not fluid, which is rigid, which is like a TV remote, and what is actually fluid, which is the same remote, but it have the interaction which feels natural to everyone. So the second example I want to give you is this temperature control thing. We may see if you go to hotel or like some in a room or something in our office, in college, we see this type of temperature control everywhere. This is cool, but the temperature control will be used by many type of people in home. If it's in home, it could be a children. If it's the father, it's the grandma who is in your home. But for a grandma, if you think of this use case, you think, okay, there are buttons they can control, but it's pretty confusing. Like there are so many buttons, they have no idea what each button do. So this company, a company called Nest, they come up with a pattern which they inspired from sound, like music knob, which is actually controlling things. If you want to increase the sound, you actually go up. If you want to decrease the sound, you go down. So they thought, okay, we can use this type of natural things they already have, and we can just apply the same back to thermostat, which is same principle, which is like you are increasing the temperature, you are reducing a temperature. So that's what they come up with this device, which is basically it do nothing. There is no button. There is literally no button, which is super simple. If you want to increase, you just right, and if you want to decrease, you just back. So that's how they make the design so fluid, and like you don't need anyone to teach you. You automatically know this muscle memory in your brain. So just to show you just a quick video of like how they are actually controlling those things. As you see in this video, there are kids, they are using it, and they're like old people using it, but everyone knows there is literally no button. They just twist it, you're done. So that makes the design more fluid and interesting, rather than giving you like a huge machine with a lot of buttons. So just to summarize of like how can we make it natural, like it had to be extension of real world and it had to be super lightweight. All the things you're designing, it doesn't need to be too many options in a single screen, and understanding like humans have a lot of brain power and muscle power already built. How can we reuse them to make it more natural? So second thing I want to talk is like how can we make it dynamic? What I mean by dynamic is humans actually can have a capability to do different things simultaneously. For example, we can talk on your mobile phone and you can drive. Like obviously that's not good, but human can able to do that. They can able to use their hand to do something, but they can use their mouth to talk with someone at the same time. So that's how we usually interact in our world and like with everything. Humans don't think actually linear. We don't make decisions like, okay, I think to do this and I am going to do some action and just made a decision based on that. We don't do that. We actually think and do the things at the same time and finally make the decision. So just to give you some example of like where we applied that logic in our design. So an iPhone, like um, we have this area where users, you might see this in your new release, users can actually change their position of their widget basically. But the way we did it is make it super clear to the user without many pop-up or like many questions. For example, you can drag it here and you can see immediately the dynamic reaction, like the way people think. Like you can think like, oh, I'm going to go here, I'm going to go here, and I want to remove this. But all this we continuously giving a feedback in the animation. As you see, like I'm pressing for a long time and it's showing you can move now. Everything is like jiggling, and as you see, everything is so adaptive. It's telling a story to you, basically without any text written in the screen. Second example, which is also they did it. There is another team they did work on this, which is like multi-swipe multitasking, which is basically how the humans also work. For example, if someone is actually reading a news, they're just going through a news, but immediately what we think is like, oh, let me actually go to this music I was looking at. But while they're doing that, they'll be like, oh, maybe not music. I'm going to check stocks, or I'm going to go do something, but I'm not going to do something. I'm not going to do anything. So that's how usually humans think, but our interface have to support all those things. If we look at it, we just, in this interface, we are not using any complex interaction. We just use the thumb to move from one app to another app. As you see, like you just use thumb left and right, and you hold up using the same thumb, and you're just making decision, you're just closing. So even with a single interaction, we can do multiple things to make it more dynamic. That's how humans think. So we need to make our interface to be that dynamic and smart. So what is dynamic? Just a quick, it had to be seamless motion, all the interfaces or any design you're doing, it had to be super seamless, and understanding intent, what the user is going to do, or they want to switch between different app, or they're going to close, or we need to also support multitasking whenever you're designing something, because no one think linear. Always people do certain things at the same time. So we need to support those things when we're designing. And feedback is a really interesting one, which is like whenever you do something in a software, you need to get feedback, because that's what we get from humans. If you talk to someone, they will give you some reaction back to you. That's how you can able to understand, okay, what they're feeling, or like what is going on with them. We just get the feeling if it's bad or right. So basically, feedback is the intent is expressed through the motion or like any visual clues. So this interface you might be really familiar, which is control center. We also have an iOS which have a lot of tiny this type of motion to give user a feedback what's going on in their screen. So for example, you can swipe up and you can see on the top the brightness is increasing, or like when you reduce it, we do this type of tiny interaction on the top to show people, okay, the sound is off now. And when you unlock it, it'll show some like lock animation there. And it also changes colors when you interact with them. And when you increase the torch brightness. As you can see, we added this little torch on and off button. I will play back this one. Like you can see a little on and off here. We did super tiny things, which actually make a lot of difference for the users to give feedback. Okay, you are doing something. Is it changing something in my screen? Is it changing something in my app? It is really important for any design to make it feel more fluid. Although it's like a super tiny and little things, if we cover all these things, people feel fluid and they think, okay, the tool I'm using is just representing what I feel and what I'm thinking right now. So this thing also another interesting one, which is how can we make this one? We had a challenge. How can we make finances or like something you need to pay more interesting? In this example, they're showing people took they're using credit card, but they need to pay every month, and the whole process we make it more interesting to show user that like they can just drag and drop, and we also show this little dot to show okay how much they can pay. We show color differentiation, and like a text is moving, and when you click pay, like there is like a instruction to you where you need to click to pay, and when you click, there is like a little animation here to show you like a quick feedback on like what's going on in this app. Instead of just being like a popover with a lot of text, we try to avoid a lot of text. We want to avoid things just giving feedback visually, because people are more visually understand things quickly. So this is also another one, as you see, like this is in China, or like any transit city. If you are in city, you may know if you have a transit card, you can go to the train station and you can scan it. But see how seamless and fluid is it. They just go near the thing and it's done. It gives a tick and you're just still in the lock screen. You don't need to do anything. So that's how the fluidity feel. You don't need to, you don't need to open the phone and you need to open some app or something. It just show nearby and it's done. The last example also I want to talk about is like the app we released super recently, which is Air Tags, which is basically a tool which help you to find things. For example, it's like a tile, but we have a tracking device. You can put it on your keys. Whenever you lost your keys, or if you lost your TV remote all the time, you can stick all this Air Tags on it, and it will show the exact location of the object you missed. So this is a challenge that how can we help people to find things inside their home? How can we make it more interesting and accurate? That's also super interesting challenge we got, and we need to do a lot of feedback to the user, because it may take a while to find the things they wanted in their home. We don't want them to get frustrated or like angry on the time they're finding their device. So as you see, this is just a quick demo of like showing how it works. So this one, I put my AirTags on my bag. I'm just walking. You can see the feedback coming in my device constantly, that okay, it's blinking, and it's also instructing me to turn which direction. And it also, you can see how much feet I need to move. In the below, you can see it's 26 feet. It's saying on your right, and it's also giving color changes, and it's also the animation is changing. So those little things makes you to feel like you are doing something, and the interface also responding. Instead of just saying, oh, go find it here. Instead of showing something in a map, like go find here. In this one, it's accurately showing what you need to do in the right moment. And this is just an end of it. Like if you want to find something, it'll show like if you use like super nearby, it shows some cool animation to show, okay, this AirTag is nearby and this is here.
Excuse me, Johny.
Yeah.
Are you putting some sort of a sensor on the bag?
No. Oh, this one? Yeah, this one we are using the device, which is this one, as you see below, which is called the.
Okay, you have some sort of a tag, RFID tag. You have some sort of RFID tag or some sort of a sensor.
Yes. Yeah, so we put like this, we are selling the sensor, which is a physical product. You can put it on your device. Like you can put it anywhere.
Hmm.
You
Okay,
can
then
put it on your, yeah.
then thanks.
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, so we made this physical device, but design team, we need to collaborate with this product to make sure in an interface, we need to show them how they can find things easily. Because there are a lot of products which we can show, but they can accurately show where is your device. But in our interface, we can actually accurately show where the device is, and we want to also give feedback to the people that how accurate this is and how easy it is to. Yeah, so that's the ad tag which we recently worked on. It's like incredible amount of work to make it. How can we make this feedback instead of we can write things? We can write a whole paragraph where is your RFID tag or something, but we don't want to write things. We want to give feedback to the user, which they don't need to do anything. And some of the as recent increase in like voice interface, I always like thought about is like in voice is getting increased in attention. So this is one prototype of showing how voice interface could be more interesting and interactive. So this one is saying what I can help you. So you can ask things and it actually understand and it highlight the things to you back to show like it's actually understanding. It gives the feedback. Okay, I understand this and these are the results you have. So these are some of the things we do to make it user to feel like we are getting some feedback from the interface. Otherwise, it will feel like a machine we are handling. We always want to give a personality to the machine, which is like more human and things. And the RFID tag I'm talking about, we put a lot of effort on like even not only visual, we also thought about how we can do sounds. We can use sounds to show different things. So this is the video my team made. So I'm going to just show how sounds also can be used to give user feedback. And this is also part of design. Like I say, it's not always about just designing for screen. It can be anything. It can be haptic, it can be vibration, it can be sound. So this, I'll play this video. Yeah, so this is just showing like how interaction can be more fluid in using different type of method and mediums, basically. So feedback, just a quick summary on that. We need to tell a story through motion. Like if we are moving somewhere and we need to give, we can use haptic feedback, which is like vibration to give feedback to the user. We can also use sound to give user what's happening in the screen, or like something is bad or like good, or like if it's success or like payment is done or failed. All these things can be conveyed through sound, which also make it more fluid. So the final one is like delight, which I really love, and like I focus a lot on this type of area. How can we make something more delightful? Thinking beyond motion. So the last topic I talked about, which is mostly about motion. How can we include motion to convey things? But how can we do more than motion? Is adding more characters. Like if you remember something, if you remember someone in person in life, you always remember someone because of their character. It's not by a lot of like how they look or like how they sound or something. You remember them because their character, you really like them. Like you find something interested in them, you like their character. So how can we make that human principle into design? How can we show those type of characters into app? So some of the concepts for apps I designed just inspired from a lot of physical world, and I translated them to the digital world to show more personality and character. So this is a payment app I worked on, which is basically showing someone is transferring their money. So this is just swiping a card. So I inspired from the swiping we usually do in any grocery store or shopping mall. So I just inspired from them, and I show the design here in a mobile interface to make it more feel like more you already seen this type of interaction in real world, and you also able to see it here. And another example which I made for like kids, which app I worked on, which is we want to ask kids to fill their information in the app. So we don't want to give forms because kids are not interested in filling or writing something. So we come up with this type of interaction to actually enter their height and weight, which is they don't need to type anything, but they can slide up or like increase the weight just by sliding like in a circle to show it more interactive and like more fun for the specific user type. And this one is a music app like I worked on, which is inspired from actually physical world vinyl to show like that type of like a really vintage type of design. When you click on it, you can see the songs and everything, and all this interface you see there is a fluidity. There is no back button or like there is no like really stuck. Everything feel like natural and like fluid. This one was also a fun one, as I said, delight. Like I come with this one, like what if there is like if you're ordering something, what if there is like the bag will open their mouth and it can get the things on it. So these things are just making, how can you think of like more fun things to make it your app more memorable? If someone use your app, they have to remember, okay, I use this app and this thing is really cool. So that makes people to come back to your app or to your software you're designing. So this also, the final one is the voice interface interaction, which is voice interface are always like improving, but how can we make it more interesting character? As you can see, the eyes moves in this one. You can see the eye move left hand side, right hand side to show feedback to the user that there is something happening in your screen, and there is a little tiny cute character listening to your voice. So that's also another type of like delighting element. So you can come up with any delight element for the specific user type and for the specific product you are designing. So all these 4 categories I talked about will make any design more fluid and interesting. So what is delight is like adding a character, as I talked about, and think about feelings, how people feel if you put this type of cute animation or like some interaction you make, how it makes people to feel and like actually connect with your app. And also always try to connect your design with like something vintage or like something old that people always remember, and just try to connect with them to make it more fun. So that's it for like fluid design. But where it's going, the technology and like all the design, everything, where it's going is also really important. All the things I talked about right now it's what we are doing right now in our world. But when you guys are complete your graduation, you are not going to do mobile app. You'll be doing something new technology than the things I am designing. When you guys, like after 5 years or something, you'll be designing something completely different, which is not even an interface. So as you know, like this are pretty, we're talking about AR for a super long time, but this is a great opportunity to show, because AR is a bridge for like a real world and like a digital world. How can we make this transition from one interface to another world more fluid? Like you don't need to feel something. You just wear a glass. You can able to experience a new world. How can you design those things? How can we make people more comfortable to wear these things? Because right now you can design AR things. You can design something AR project or something. How can we design in a way that it is more comfortable for people to wear and it does not interfere in anything in their life? How can it could be more extension of their everyday life? So those things also you can think about when you finish your graduation, or when you're making your own HCI product. The things you can think about is like this. You can build a portfolio of like, how can you think about to make it more fluid? So some other example, my favorite one from online, which is basically this type of things, like using a card. If they're wearing a glass, they can see this type of their whole like, transaction history, just swiping their card. They don't need to go and open the mobile. They can swipe the card and they can able to see everything. So this one also showing like how people can rate things. You don't need to, open an app or something in the future. Everything would be shown on the device, and you can right now you can do that. Right now, like you can use camera to scan every device. You can able to scan the images and show things. But the main challenge is how can we make it more fluid, which is that like you just tap things and you can see all the ratings. You don't need to do any work. Basically, how can you design those type of interfaces? So this one, obviously, all these fluid principles I talked about can be used in anything, any context. This one is just teaching people how to play guitar. It's using all the different concepts I talked about, which is like, it's dynamic, it's fluid, and giving feedback, and also it's delightful to just use this type of things. The next one, which is also emerging topic, is like I always talk about like autonomous like car industry, which also have a lot of potential. So when you're doing your project, you can always think about like how can we make autonomous car more safe and people feel comfortable in autonomous cars. As you can see, this visualization show people how this car can read everything, but we need to convey the user that like your car can read everything. So if you're driving an autonomous car, people will be just sitting inside the car, but they need to see what's going on outside. So as you can see, this just a parking, but as you can see, it have little feedback, and there is like a visual dynamic going on, and you can see like a path, and people are parking safely. So all this feedback are super important for any design to make it complete. And some fun ones I found in front, which is like using AR, you can do grocery shopping. When you go for grocery shopping, your shopping list will be there. You can just put things on your bag, and it's also recommend things. What are the things you can buy in the shop? Yeah, this one is also basically just showing like what are the other ways people can use AR or like a new technology, something like traffic, or like they're buying something. And this thing also you can think about how people can. This one he's using. As you can see, the hand gestures, he's just using expand gesture. So what are the different gestures they can use in this new type of technology? Like what we can innovate something new in this type of world. It's interesting. So this one, like all the things are showing just what are the different possibilities of like AR or like new technology. It doesn't need to be AR. It can be any new technology. How can we make this whole interaction feels like super smooth? So those are the topics I have, and just to go, like you guys, since you guys are doing already, you're studying in school, you already may know all the tools, but I just want to quickly go through what are the tools I basically use, which is, I don't use fancy tools. I use Figma, I use Principle, which is an incredible tool to make all these prototypes. All the things you saw in my deck, all the things we design in Apple, we can able to do in Principle, which is a super interesting and quick tool to make all your prototypes. And like obviously you can use After Effects. It's a little complicated, but if you want to make some like voice interface or like really complicated interaction, you can do After Effects. And this tool also I found it really interesting in terms of as voice is really becoming more and more popular nowadays. It will be really interesting. There will be a lot of positions when you guys complete your school or like when you complete your college. So you should also think about this type of tools, which is voice flow, which is really interesting too. This combines both logical thinking and design to design interface, which is voice. If you say something, how the product should react to you. So you can also design those type of interaction using this. And obviously the one tool I always recommend is like, you should definitely check out ARKit and ARCore from Google. Both of them are really good to prototype a lot of new design concept. Whenever you have a lot of new concept, you should always try to do coding and design. Like, you should not be just designing something. You should always combine your coding skills and design skills to make some prototypes. And always, when you're making a portfolio or like anything, just always make something and put it on your website so that people know what you can do. Yeah, definitely learn React.js. For sure, I know you guys will be studying coding. And I also have a blog which have all the things, all the tools or all the principle you need to learn. Like, if you search in Medium article, in this name, you can find all the things. I put all the tools and tips. I spent a lot of years since I transitioned from engineering to be a designer. I spent a lot of time learning everything like from new. So this thing, this blog I created basically put all the things I learned in 5 years. I put all the links you must need it to just get started, because getting started is really important. So I put all the things which will be really helpful for you if you want to take a look. And yeah, I obviously have like extended this workshop. I'm not teaching anything specifically tool, like how to use the tool. I think you can learn online, and I also have like online website if you want to go and learn specifically, if you want to know how I'm doing all this animation. All the animation you see in this deck, you can actually learn like how to do specifically, how you move things, how you move all the frames or like position and everything. You can learn online. Yeah, so that's it I have for today. If you have questions, I'm open for questions. So you can contact me if you have any question, or like if you want, like, if you want to start your career, how do you get started? You can ask me. You can ping me Instagram, or like you can email me anytime. Yeah, so I'm open for question. If you have a question, let me know.
Johnny,
Yep.
nice presentation. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Let me know what are the template or the design pattern you are following. Is it applicable only for the Apple platform, or that can be applied to the other platform as well?
Yeah, that's a great question. So all the principle I talked about today is like applicable to any software design, any software, even physical design, any product you are making, anything. These principle can be applied. So it's not restricted to, okay, this is Apple design, or like, not any.
So like fluid kind of a stuff, fluid without having back button, etc. So I think that is proprietary of the Apple. Then nobody other have attempted or even not available. That it is what I observed. It is specific to the Apple platform.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, Apple really, we put a lot of effort on how can we make things really fluid or like super simple for people when compared to other companies, like when compared to all the other competitors like Google, care about a lot of engineering and everything, but we really care about like how can make any interface fluid, because we do have a lot of devices in our, we do hardware and we do software, so we definitely need to be design anything to be fluid. That's a challenge we have, and that's what Apple really care about.
Good. Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Does anyone have any more question? You can post in the chat if you guys have anything. Online workshop. Yeah, I will be available for online workshop. If something is specific to some specific tools, I can do online workshop. Which tool is better? I think both of them are good. AR Kit is good and AR Core. Both of them have different benefits. Yeah, if you're developing for iOS, you should be using AR Kit. Like if you're doing for Android, you should be using AR Core. Good reference and books. Yeah, in the link I can also post a link here, which I will post a link here. What are the link you can look at? Good reference and book. Yeah, you can also look at this link, which have the specific software tutorial, how you make all those interaction animation. I can also show, that's a paid one. I can also show my YouTube. I also have a YouTube channel where I teach all the softwares. Yeah, okay. So there's a YouTube link. We guys just want to learn the software. Did anyone have any questions? No more questions?
So if there are any questions, we'll wrap the session. I think there are no questions, sir.
No questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir. It was very informative and very interesting, also very vibrant and colorful. Thank you for the session, sir.
Yeah, thank you everyone for attending. Thank you, sir, for bringing me again for the talk.